So let's step back a couple of steps, and I'm just going to delete this, and I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to use the quick selection tool because it works so quickly. Just kind of select all of this out. So here we go. Let me get this as good as I possibly can. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in and press spacebar to use the hand, which by now you've learned, right? And I just want to zoom in and do this as the final or almost final step of selection and look through where there are problems. Now, whenever you're making a complicated selection like this is a relatively complicated one, you get into using these tools together. And generally what you'll do is you'll start with the quick selection tool, and then you'll move on to using the lasso tool for those final adjustments. What the lasso tool does is it's a pair of scissors. So if I were to go in and just click every time I click, that's just, the point. So if I were to try to select around this with the lasso tool, it would take forever. I mean, that's just a terrible way to select it. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to undo. And let me show you how to use this right here. So the best way to use the lasso tool is once you've done a major selection with the quick selection, go in and make adjustments. Just as you did with the magic wand, Shift is add, Alt is, or Option or whatever, is subtract. Don't worry, just remember that the modifier keys do something. And if you absolutely go the wrong way, like I'm doing right here, just undo. And just do little segments at a time. So all I'm doing right here is I held down Alt, and then I clicked, and then I got rid of that selection right there. Same thing right up here. So again, I'm just zoomed in, and I'm just doing a little bit at a time. And this is the sort of thing that, like, once you get the hang of it, doesn't take too long, but once you get the hang of it, could take a little bit of time. So I'm using spacebar just to make sure that everything works. The place where the quick select tool isn't going to do a great job is where there aren't large areas of contrast. So right here, you can see that if I just zoom out a little bit, the arm of the statue and the background are roughly the same thing. So in order to fix that, I'm using the lasso tool, I'm holding Shift, and I'm just adding to the active region. And every time I click, I'm adding to the active region. So I'm going to undo that and show you something right here. So I'm hitting Shift. When you double click, that's when it closes it. So double click closes it. Now, because of that, I don't start the selection here, because if I go through and I accidentally double clicked, which will happen, if I started it here, this happens. But if I start it here and then I accidentally double click right here, this happens. So just something to be aware of. Always start from like a little bit further away and just do little segments at a time. Any questions about this, Aviva? Okay, cool. I'll just keep going. Great. Love it. Just fishing for compliments right there, clearly. Stalling for time as you watch me select things. Something to note is I'm going to be selecting things throughout the rest of this course. So even if you don't completely have it down right now, but you understand the fundamentals, we will be reinforcing this until you are sick of watching me select things. Like, honestly, I aspire to get to a point where you are just really bored of watching me select, because that means that you know it so well that you're bored of watching me do it. Like right here, like, oh, hey, look, he's selecting. It's a little bit interesting. He's changing what the selection looks like. Let's get to a point where you're like, yeah, okay, I get it. Selection, done. I can do that myself in my sleep. It's just important. Okay, so now we have a better selection. But even if we do this right here, if I were to copy and paste this, so Command C, Command V, and then let's create a new layer, and again, do this right here, and then bring this down. Oh, just side note, the fade goes from the background color to the foreground color. So if I ever wanted to change that, that's right here. That's where this gradient is coming from. So just, if you're curious, I'll get into that more with the design section, hopefully. So if you look at this selection right now, it's pretty good, but it's not great. It's still like a little bit clunky. It still looks a little bit weird. So let's go back a sec, and let's go back to before we copied. And so the final step, if you go to the lasso tool or any of the selection tools, inside of the options bar is a button called Refine Edge.